Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for another week video. Now today we're going to be doing part 3 of our spooky tale. So I'm waiting for Megs and Demi to come. Before they get here, all I need you to do is hit that subscribe button, but ring the notification bell on and smash that like button. If you don't do that, those ghosts are going to get you. So let's do that. Okay, well they're here already. Okay. Alright ladies, so this is part 3 of our spooky tales for Halloween.
Why didn't you drag me into this?
I don't know, that was fun.
I dragged you into this. I love you guys, but yeah.
Alright, okay, so let's get into those tales. So now we're going to get into our spookiness. Before we do that, anyone needs a blanket? Anyone needs a teddy?
I was just about to ask, like, you guys had that last time.
Oh, that was quick.
We came prepared.
Okay, so, you guys ready?
No.
First one we're going to look at, something was in my apartment.
It's a scary paranormal story that happened to me in my sophomore year in college. It still gives me creeps and scares me to this day. It's a true story. Trust me. As New Year has just begun, I moved into the apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 bathrooms. Me and my housemate got our own rooms. Everything seemed nice and got along great for the first week. I would often wake up to sounds in the middle of the night coming from the kitchen, since my room was the closest to it. I always assumed it was my roommate having a late night snack. After the second week, he told me that he was actually going to drop the university because he didn't feel so well physically and was kind of homesick. I was sad that he had to go, but I was a little excited thinking that I had the apartment to myself and wouldn't hear his midnight munchies. And that night, I woke up to noise from the kitchen again. I was a bit confused because I was the only one in the apartment. I was alone now. I then went to investigate and found a knife on the floor in the kitchen. I put it back in the drawer and went back to bed, thinking it might have fallen from the counter. A few nights passed and I didn't hear a sound, except for this night. I heard some sounds coming from my closet. It was about 3 a.m., and then I just felt a coldness around me, and my hair was standing up on my whole body when I woke up to see my closet. Suddenly I saw a dark figure standing next to the closet. It looked like a Dementor from the Harry Potter movies, but it disappeared in a few seconds. I figured I was having a wild imagination. The next day I felt tired from all my classes, so when nighttime fell, I knocked out in my bed. That night was the night I would never forget. I remember waking up to some noise coming from behind me. I woke up and I realized that I couldn't move. All I could move were my eyes. I was laying in bed in fear. My heart started to thump really hard. I felt a cold air behind me as I felt this person coming closer, but I couldn't hear any footsteps. That's when I realized the bed was shaking viciously, but it wasn't because of me. I tried to see at the corner of the room and I saw the dark figure from the other day. This time it had red eyes, like those of the devil. My heart sank when I saw it. Although I wasn't a strong believer in God until that moment, I closed my eyes and started to pray to God to help me. I started to remember my parents and friends. That's when I felt the figure stop. I just kept thinking of everything that made me happy and praying to God to help me. And finally, I felt the dark figure leave the room, retreating back to its corner. After 5 minutes, I was able to move my body. I decided to go sleep at my neighbor's apartment for the night as I ran away as fast as I could run. I eventually moved out of that apartment by the end of the month. And now I'm always wondering if those things are what made my housemate.
You watch cartoons to get over the scary
Needless to
thing
say,
that you've just watched.
I'm glad
That's
I moved out.
ruined it. No. Yes, right?
That's number 1.
Oh, jeez, I can hear my. I
can feel my hair standing up.
Like I'm literally going to be so paranoid tonight.
Let's watch number 2 of our spooky tales. I shrunk.
Yes.
I got scared, I shrunk. Okay, Number 2. I don't know what this one is. But we'll find out. Oh no.
Tunnel. Okay.
Otaki.
Tunnel.
Is that in Japan?
Yep. And this is an urban legend.
Oh, they
In
are
Kyoto Prefecture, in the Kansai region of the island of Honshu in Japan, the town of Saga Kiyotaki is home to the mysterious and haunted Kiyotaki Tunnel. The tunnel is 444 meters long, and with the Japanese word for 4 sounding the same as the word for death, this tunnel wards off all who are superstitious or weak of heart. It was constructed in the late 1920s by slave labor, and its purpose was to enable a railway line to be built, connecting the town to the neighboring Arashiyama city. The working conditions were appalling, and the dangerous environment, coupled with frequent earthquakes, led to the death of many of its workforce.
That's sad.
Over the course of the construction, dozens of workers lost their lives,
and the wind starts to blow out that
and some were left to rot where they fell. Others were given a final resting place only a short distance away from the tunnel. The railway line was eventually replaced with a roadway, and in the years since, there have been several accounts of strange and terrifying happenings within the tunnel walls.
What drive?
There have been sightings of strange apparitions, and even the ghosts of the deceased workers appearing in people's vehicles as they pass through.
That's my worst fear ever.
There's no eyes.
That's nice.
Sometimes, voices can be heard, with an array of screams and mutterings emanating from within the darkness. Others claim to feel nauseous when they enter the tunnel. Some put this down to the poor air quality caused by excessive exhaust gases. Others say it's more than that, as there is often an acrid stench of death in the air which lingers inside the car for hours post passing through. Motorists also have claimed that their car feels like it's being buffeted by strong winds as they pass through, and when they exit, their car is covered by dirty handprints.
That's not a sign of what is.
There have also been claims of a terrifying woman in white who haunts the entrance to the tunnel at night. Her featureless face stares chillingly at all who enter. She's been known to cause fatal accidents by jumping into the path of oncoming traffic. For the most part, you'll be quite safe when you drive through Kiyotaki Tunnel. However, you must avoid looking into your mirror at all costs, for if you see your own corpse looking back at you, 4 days later, you will die.
Yeah, that's like the ring. I've noticed these things have kind of like a... That other one is like Harry Potter. This one is like the ring. Oh, but that's so creepy. I can't climb into a car at night on my own because I'm so scared of looking into the rearview mirror. And I'm so scared there's somebody in the back seat. And yes.
Okay, you guys ready for the final one?
No.
Just get it over with, please, because I'm on my defense mechanism of wanting to flee is kicking in.
The final one is called Dark Web. This is about the Dark Web. And you know...
I was 26 years old, and I was unemployed. Feeling unfulfilled by the monotony of a job life, I decided I would try my hand at working from home. So my days and nights comprised me of surfing the internet for any jobs I could get. I was a big procrastinator, so more often than not I'd stray away and waste time doing other
Look,
things.
it's PewDiePie.
One day, I came across talk about the deep web while on Reddit. I felt amused by the people talking about it as if it was something so scary, and decided I'd look into it. It was stupid of me to go on it in the first place, but I made it even sillier by deciding to check it out late at night. It was about 2 a.m. and I came across a website where you could chat with someone anonymously. The person I got was a woman,
She was in her early 20s and very pretty. She sat with her head in her hands, looking playful into the webcam while batting her eyes. I had no desire to turn my camera on and started our chat, thinking that while I didn't come across anything scary, I could befriend this pretty girl. It sounded like a better deal anyway. She told me to turn the camera on, but I ignored that request and tried to get her to talk. She finally did after some prodding, but I noticed how guarded she was. I also noticed how after every message I sent, her eyes would look off camera, either to her side or somewhere behind her computer.
She's looking at you.
After a while, it started getting annoying, so I asked her if someone else was there with her.
I want to see you first.
She said. Up until now, I'd been chatting while she'd answered my questions verbally. I'm not that curious,
Don't be scared.
she said, laughing, this time looking behind the laptop again and making a face that seemed to indicate she was laughing at my expense, with someone else. This is getting boring. It feels like I'm not just talking to you.
That's because you're not. You're talking to all of us.
Who else is there?
What did she
Turn your
say?
camera on.
Just on.
Is this a joke?
See if I can
Turn
make
it on.
stuff.
Okay, I'll be leaving now.
Turn on the camera.
Her laughter was almost piercing by now. There was nothing humorous about the situation, yet she threw her head back with riotous laughter.
What are you doing?
I'd had enough and moved the cursor over to turn the chat box off when I saw the cursor had jammed. The only thing that was working was the chat box, and I still had access to the keyboard.
Turn the camera on, sweetie.
Her gumdrop-filled voice was louder than before, and I moved my gaze up to see her smiling toothfully at the camera. Her face still beautiful, but the smile completely fake. My computer's crashed. I can't see the screen. Sorry. I lied. I didn't want her to know I had no option but to chat. Her screen flashed before going blank. There was nothing there but a black screen. I felt relieved, thinking that at least I didn't need to talk to her while I tried to figure out what happened to the screen. Just then, a chat message popped up.
Open the damn camera.
The aggressiveness in the message frightened me.
Teed off,
Now,
yeah?
the fact that I couldn't see her face while she typed this made me feel nervous. I didn't dare reply back, but then the cursor moved. I watched shell-shocked as the cursor twirled around the screen.
No, that cursor.
Open the camera now.
I still didn't make a move. There was no way anything good would be waiting for me if I did what she asked. The screen began flickering, as if a virus was causing the computer to writhe in agony.
That's why I would disconnect.
Want me to find you?
My heart raced. Could it be possible she knew where I was? I started typing. Please stop bothering me.
Then turn on the f***ing camera.
By this point, I thought she was some kind of sadist who got her kicks by scaring unassuming people in chat rooms. So I obliged and turned the webcam on. I saw my frightened face staring into the screen. Judging by my face, my attempts at looking tough were painfully unsuccessful. I asked around for the girl looking straight into the camera, telling her I did what she wanted and to stop hacking into my computer. There were several seconds of silence. I kept my stare directed to the little box that showed her camera feed, but it was pitch black. I motioned into the camera in confusion, feeling as if she was messing with me now. Then I saw another message.
Look here.
After a few seconds of staring at those words, I looked back at her camera, but my computer instantly malfunctioned, and I received another message.
Look here. Don't look up.
The chat was filled with nonsensical gibberish.
Are you okay?
Typed with such ferocious
You
speed
still okay?
that the screen rolled away with
It's
her constant
boiling hot, but I'm
messages.
getting
I
goosebumps.
couldn't understand what was going on, but I didn't look up. My patience ran thin, and I wrote back, "What is this supposed to mean?" Her response came. I read only the letters in bold and shuddered. I looked back into her
System has been
webcam
hacked.
and I fell back into my chair, my eyes widening. She was back there, only her face looked completely demented. She had a savage expression, devoid of emotion, but her eyes were almost popping out of their sockets, and she was huffing as if she had extreme amounts of pent-up rage. The way she looked directly into the camera made me feel
Don't
she
give me
despised me
regrets.
with all of her being. There was no amusement there anymore. Her camera went blank again. Then the chat popped up. My heart stopped again. For a split second, there had been the same blackness, only for the lights to come back on. She wasn't alone anymore. There was a man next to her with a black mask on. He made no movements other than look into the camera like the girl. The girl's neck creaked to her side. It looked like it was causing her pain, and then the lights went out again. The chat resumed. This time, I screamed in fright and fell off my chair. There was another man with them now. He was standing next to the girl with the original one on the other side. This man had the same mask on, but his hands were grasping the girl's shoulders. Even with the subpar quality of the webcam, I could see the force with which the man dug his hands into the girl.
Like this.
It looked like he could rip her in two.
Shoulder. This is what she's
The
going
girl,
through.
however, had a huge grin on her face. Her eyes were mad with glee, or so it looked. Her teeth were perfectly lined up as her mouth spread into that toothy grin, but I could see she was in pain. Even with the smallest sign of her smile fading, the man clenched his hands even tighter than before, which made her smile even wider. All three of them were shaking, as if it was extremely cold where they were. After a couple seconds, I realized they were shuddering, like trying to hold back laughter.
What are you laughing at?
I yelled into the screen. They didn't answer, and continued to tremor with concealed hilarity.
What is so damn funny?
Tell me.
I bellowed. They stopped shaking. Within a couple seconds, the screen went black again. When it turned back on, the man no longer grasped the girl's shoulder. Neither was she smiling. All three pointed into the camera. Upon a closer look, I understood that they weren't pointing at me.
Oh, there's something behind
They were
him.
pointing behind me. I didn't need to look back. I could see myself in the webcam. There was someone peeking from behind me. It was another man in a mask. And according to what I saw in my webcam, he was with me in my room, right behind me. I turned around quickly, but saw nothing where I had seen him in the webcam. I turned back towards the screen and, to my bewilderment, saw a third man in the girl's chat box. It was the same man I had just seen standing in my room. Now, all three had their hands on the girl and were gripping tight. The girl wasn't laughing anymore. She had a look of utter devastation. A tear was dropping from her eye, but it wasn't just a tear. It was blood trickling down her eye socket. She then mouthed the words, "Help me," and the next second she screamed as if her lungs were being ripped off as the screen went black.
Yes, like this was
I immediately got up and pulled the plug out of my computer and backed out of the
just got
room.
ripped off.
For a couple seconds, I swear I heard her screams, even though the computer was unplugged. The room went quiet, but I was too devastated to stay there and ran out of my house despite it being 3 a.m. I caught a cab and went over to my friends, who had to talk me down for an hour before I could be calmed. I returned back to my house with my friend a day later. Everything was the same, and after thoroughly checking around the house, we concluded that there was no one there, nor was there a sign of anyone ever having broken in. I've never gone back to the deep web. My friend suggested it might have been some prank by computer hackers, but the way that girl shrieked, the terror she had on her face, it convinced me she had been a victim herself. I'd wondered if I had stayed on for longer, if I would have become a victim too. Could those men have found me? Was there really someone in the room with me? There was nothing I could do, because there was nothing concrete to report to the police. What I did do was throw the computer out and buy a new one. There was no way I could even open it back up after what happened.
That's it. Spooky horror series. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me, but I hate you now.
How are you two feeling?
That was honestly the worst one. Yeah, that's
Last one. Well, what do you guys think? Did you like it? If you did, smash that like button. Ring the notification bell. It floats around. It's either it's one of these. Which one it is? But hit that notification bell because that will let you know when all new episodes are up. And next month, for the channel's special surprise, the channel will be 2 years old.
I know, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So, if you guys are new and you want to see that one, and you're not subscribed yet, do subscribe and stick to that one. And thank you for joining the spooky Halloween series for October. Just don't drive home alone, okay?
No, thankfully I've got you guys.
Yeah.
But I have to sleep alone.
Oh, jeez.
Stay away from the cupboards and the windows.
Oh, my cupboard's open. I have to close it.
Alright guys, we out of here. We'll see you next week. Hey, maybe I'll give you a bonus spooky.
Yeah.
All depends. But I'll see you guys next week. Oh yeah, let's get out of it because the ghosts are coming. Cheers.
Okay. Bye. Bye.